The crystal champagne flutes clinked together, catching the warm glow of the restaurant's intimate lighting. Emma Porter smiled at her husband James across the table, her heart still fluttering after 5 years of marriage. "To us," she said, raising her glass, "5 years of adventures, challenges, and growing together." James's smile didn't quite reach his eyes, but Emma chalked it up to exhaustion from his recent business trips. Her gaze drifted to the empty third seat at their table. "Mira's late as usual," Emma chuckled, checking her watch. "Should we order appetizers?" "Let's wait," James replied, loosening his tie. "She texted that she has something important to share." Emma nodded, sipping her champagne and reminiscing about their wedding day. "Remember how Mira caught my bouquet? She swore she'd never marry, but she lunged for those flowers like her life depended on it." James's laugh sounded hollow. "Yeah, she's always been unpredictable." The restaurant door opened and Mira Chen swept in, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. Emma waved but froze when she noticed Mira's hand resting protectively over her slightly rounded belly. "Sorry I'm late," Mira announced, sliding into the empty chair. Her eyes gleamed with an emotion Emma couldn't quite place. "I wanted to wait until we were all together to share my news." Emma felt a strange chill despite the restaurant's warmth. "You're pregnant?" she asked, forcing brightness into her voice. "That's wonderful. I didn't even know you were dating anyone." Mira's gaze locked with James's before she turned back to Emma with a triumphant smile. "I'm not just dating someone. She reached across the table and placed her hand over James's. "We've been in love for nearly a year." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Emma stared at their joined hands, then at her husband's ashen face. "I don't understand," Emma whispered, though the terrible truth was already crystallizing. "James is the father of my baby," Mira announced. "We never meant to hurt you, but we can't hide anymore. Not with our child coming." Emma's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. The sound barely registered as she looked into her husband's guilty eyes. "Is this true?" she asked, her voice barely audible. When James nodded, something broke inside Emma, and something else, harder and colder, took its place. "Well," she said, reaching for her purse with steady hands that belied the storm inside her. "This is quite the anniversary surprise." She pulled out a small flash drive and placed it on the table between them. "Since we're sharing life-changing news," Emma continued, her voice growing stronger, "I have something for both of you, too." 6 months earlier, Emma Porter loved Sundays. They were sacred in her household, the one day when both she and James were guaranteed to be home together. As a pediatric surgeon, her schedule was often unpredictable, while James's work as a financial consultant regularly took him out of town. This particular Sunday morning, Emma stretched contentedly in their king-sized bed, reaching for James only to find his side empty but still warm. The shower was running in their master bathroom. Emma smiled, considering joining him, but her phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was Mira, her best friend since college. "Emergency brunch required," the text read. "Man troubles. Need your wisdom and mimosas. The usual place in 1 hour?" Emma texted back immediately. "I'll be there. First round's on me." She and Mira had been inseparable since being assigned as roommates their freshman year. Where Emma was methodical and steady, Mira was spontaneous and vibrant. They balanced each other perfectly. When Emma met James during their residency, Mira had been the first to approve. "He grounds you without dimming your light," Mira had declared after their first double date. "Plus, those shoulders don't hurt." The bathroom door opened, releasing a cloud of steam as James emerged with a towel around his waist. "Morning, beautiful," he said, leaning down to kiss her. "Any big plans today?" "Mira's having a crisis. We're doing emergency brunch." Something flickered across James's face. So quickly Emma almost missed it. "Everything okay?" he asked, turning away to select a shirt from the closet. Man troubles, apparently. Though with Mira, that could mean anything from a bad first date to accidentally matching with her boss on a dating app. James laughed, but it sounded forced. "Well, give her my best. Actually, I was thinking, we should have her over for dinner this week. She's been so busy with her new project, I feel like we hardly see her anymore. James paused while buttoning his shirt. I'm traveling to Chicago Tuesday through Thursday. Friday, then. I'll cook that paella she loves. Sure, he agreed, checking his phone. Damn, I need to make a quick work call. Something came up with the Richardson account. Emma watched as he hurried from the room, phone pressed to his ear. James had been working harder than ever lately, securing a promotion that came with more travel, but also a substantial raise. They were saving for a down payment on a house, one with a yard and space for the children they'd been discussing. At 34, Emma felt the gentle but persistent pressure of time. They'd agreed to start trying for a baby after their 5th anniversary, just a few months away. 90 minutes later, Emma sat across from Mira at Café Lucette, their favorite brunch spot. Mira was uncharacteristically subdued, stirring her mimosa absently. Okay, spill it, Emma prompted. What's his name and what did he do? Mira looked up, her dark eyes troubled. It's complicated. When is it not with you? Emma teased gently. This is different. Mira took a deep breath. I've met someone who could be the one, Em. For the first time ever, I can picture a future. Emma's eyebrows shot up. Mira was notorious for her 3-month relationship limit. That's amazing. So what's the problem? He's not exactly available, Emma groaned. Mira, no. Tell me he's not married. It's not like that, Mira insisted. His marriage isn't working. They're basically roommates at this point. He's only staying because he feels obligated. Emma had heard this rationale too many times from heartbroken patients justifying their partner's inability to commit. That's what they all say, she said gently. If he's serious about you, he should end his marriage first, cleanly. You don't understand, Mira persisted. There are financial considerations, property. It's complicated. It always is. What's his name? Mira hesitated. I'd rather not say. Not until things are more settled. Emma reached across the table and squeezed her friend's hand. Just be careful. I don't want to see you hurt, or be the unwitting accomplice to destroying someone else's marriage. Mira's smile didn't reach her eyes. You're always taking care of everyone, Em. It's what makes you such a good doctor. And friend? Over the next few months, Emma noticed subtle shifts in her own marriage. James was more distant, often lost in thought. Their once vibrant sex life had dwindled to occasional, perfunctory encounters that left Emma feeling strangely empty. When she attempted to discuss it, James blamed work stress and the pressure of his frequent travel. Meanwhile, Mira became increasingly elusive, canceling plans and responding to texts hours later, if at all. When they did get together, she was vague about her mysterious relationship, though she insisted it was progressing. He's making plans to leave her, Mira said during a rare lunch together in April. He's just waiting for the right time. And you believe him? Emma asked, unable to keep the skepticism from her voice. With all my heart, Mira replied with unsettling certainty. As spring turned to summer, Emma threw herself into her work at the Children's Hospital, taking on additional surgeries and consultations. If James noticed her longer hours, he didn't comment. They moved around each other like polite strangers, their conversations limited to logistics and surface pleasantries. One night in late June, Emma came home unexpectedly early after a surgery was canceled. The house was quiet, but James's car was in the driveway. She called his name, but received no answer. In their bedroom, she found his laptop open on the bed. James was normally meticulous about security, another habit from his financial work, but in his haste, he'd left his email logged in. Emma wasn't prone to snooping. But something, intuition, or perhaps the culmination of months of unease, made her look at the screen. There, in his sent items folder, was an email to a realtor with the subject line, "Viewing for 2-bedroom condo." Emma frowned. They'd been saving for a house, not a condo, and certainly not a 2-bedroom when they were planning for children. She clicked on the email. The property on Westlake looks promising, James had written. I especially appreciate the privacy and security features you mentioned. As discussed, I'll need to keep this search confidential for now due to the sensitive nature of my current living situation. I'd like to bring Em to see it this weekend if possible. Emma's blood ran cold. She scrolled through the email chain, finding references to starting fresh and a place that's truly ours. With shaking hands, she opened his text messages. James had always used his work phone for personal communications, another security measure, he'd claimed. But his iPad synced messages from both devices, and it was charging on the nightstand. She found the thread with Mira immediately. Months of messages, intimate, explicit, plans, promises. "I'll tell her after the anniversary," James had written just days ago. "She deserves that much at least." And Mira had replied, "I can't wait to start our real life together. All three of us." 3. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, a strange calm settling over her. The pieces clicked together with terrible clarity. Mira's mysterious, unavailable man, James's distance, the suspicious business trips that aligned perfectly with Mira's own unexplained absences. She heard the front door open, followed by James's footsteps. "Emma, you're home early." She closed the iPad, her mind working with clinical precision. "Surgery was canceled," she replied, her voice steady. "Patient's fever broke, so we rescheduled." James nodded, relief evident as he noticed the closed iPad. "I was thinking takeout tonight, Ty?" "Perfect," Emma said, smiling as though her world hadn't just imploded. "I'm starving." That night, as James slept beside her, Emma made a decision. She wouldn't confront them, not yet. First, she needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal. And then she would need a plan. Over the next several weeks, Emma became a detective in her own marriage. She installed a discreet tracking app on James's personal phone while he showered. She recorded his computer keystrokes while pretending to work late. She cross-referenced his business trips with Mira's social media absences. The evidence mounted, damning and irrefutable. Not only had her husband and best friend been carrying on an affair for nearly a year, but they'd been systematically planning a future together, one that required Emma's complete removal. Most disturbing was what she discovered about their finances. James had been siphoning money from their joint savings, the house fund, into a separate account. Small amounts at first, then larger sums as his confidence grew. Nearly 40% of their savings had disappeared. But Emma's most shocking discovery came when she gained access to James's work emails. As a financial consultant with access to sensitive client information, James was subject to strict ethical guidelines. His firm conducted regular audits and compliance reviews to ensure all client interactions were above board. Except James had been falsifying records for select clients, offering them creative investment opportunities that existed outside his firm's official oversight. He called them his premium clients, wealthy individuals looking for higher returns who didn't mind bending rules. It wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. The evidence was clear in the hidden email folders and encrypted files Emma managed to access. James had been running the scheme for years, growing bolder as his clientele expanded. The money he skimmed wasn't life-changing, but it funded an increasingly lavish lifestyle. Expensive watches, weekend trips, and gifts for Mira that Emma had never seen. Armed with this knowledge, Emma crafted her response with surgical precision. She documented everything, backing up emails, bank transfers, and text exchanges to a secure flash drive. She consulted discreetly with a divorce attorney, ensuring she understood her options. And she waited. Their 5th anniversary would be their last, but not for the reasons James and Mira expected. On the night of their anniversary dinner, Emma dressed with special care, selecting a deep burgundy dress that James had always loved. She styled her honey blonde hair in loose waves and applied makeup with a steady hand, all while rehearsing what she would say when the moment came. The flash drive felt heavy in her clutch as she waited for James in the foyer of their home. "You look beautiful," he said when he appeared. And for a brief moment, Emma caught a glimpse of the man she'd fallen in love with, the one who had promised to cherish her above all others. "Thank you," she replied, accepting his obligatory kiss on the cheek. Ready? The drive to the restaurant was filled with mundane conversation, a final performance of normalcy before the curtain fell. James seemed distracted, checking his phone repeatedly. Everything okay? Emma asked, knowing he was likely texting Mira about their planned announcement. Just work, he lied smoothly. Emma nodded, allowing him this final deception. The restaurant was one of the most exclusive in the city, James's choice. Emma wondered if he'd selected it thinking the public setting would prevent her from making a scene when they delivered their news. He didn't know her at all if he believed that. Now, as the flash drive sat between them on the white tablecloth, Emma watched comprehension dawn on James's face. "What's this?" he asked, his voice tight. "Insurance," Emma replied calmly. "Or evidence, depending on how the next few minutes go." Mira reached for James's hand, her pregnancy announcement momentarily forgotten. "Emma, what are you talking about?" "I know everything," Emma said simply. "The affair, the baby, the money James has been stealing from our savings. And most importantly," she leaned forward, lowering her voice, "I know about his creative accounting practices at work." The color drained from James's face. "You've been spying on me?" Emma laughed without humor. "That's rich, coming from the man who's been lying to my face for a year while planning a future with my best friend." "We never meant to hurt you," Mira began, her free hand still resting protectively on her stomach. "Save it," Emma cut her off. "I'm not interested in your justifications." She turned back to James. "What would your firm think about the Reynolds account? Or the offshore arrangements for the Donovans? I wonder how the SEC might view your premium client services." James gripped the table edge. "You wouldn't I? You've taken everything from me. My marriage, my best friend, my plans for a family, nearly half of our savings." Emma's voice remained steady. "Why wouldn't I take everything from you in return?" "Emma, please," Mira pleaded. "Think about the baby." "Oh, I am thinking about the baby," Emma replied, her gaze softening fractionally. An innocent child shouldn't suffer for their parents' mistakes. She reached for her water glass, took a deliberate sip, and continued. "Here's what's going to happen. James, you'll transfer every cent you took from our savings back into the joint account by noon tomorrow. You'll agree to my terms for the divorce, which my lawyer will send over. And you'll write a letter of resignation to your firm, effective 2 weeks from today." "You're destroying my career," James hissed. "You did that yourself," Emma corrected him. "I'm merely giving you the chance to leave with your reputation and freedom intact. Resign voluntarily, and the evidence on this drive stays with me. Fight me, and it goes to your compliance department, the SEC, and the police." James stared at her, hatred and fear warring in his eyes. "And what about us?" he asked, gesturing between himself and Mira. "Are you going to try to keep us apart out of spite?" Emma laughed, genuinely amused. "Keep you apart? God, no. You deserve each other." She leaned back in her chair. "In fact, I wish you a lifetime of happiness together. A lifetime of wondering if the other is being faithful. A lifetime of looking over your shoulders waiting for the other shoe to drop." She turned to Mira. "He cheated with you. How long before he cheats on you?" Mira flinched. "And you," Emma continued, addressing James. "She helped destroy a marriage without remorse. What does that say about her character? About her loyalty?" Emma stood, gathering her purse. "The flash drive is a copy. The original evidence is secure with my lawyer, with instructions to release it if anything happens to me, or if you fail to meet my terms." She placed her napkin neatly beside her untouched plate. "I'll be staying with my sister while you pack your things. You have until Sunday to move out." "Emma, wait," James said, reaching for her arm. "We can talk about this." She jerked away from his touch. "We're done talking. You've said everything I needed to hear through your actions." Emma paused, looking between them one last time. "Congratulations on the baby. I truly hope you'll be better parents than you are partners." With that, she walked out of the restaurant, her head high despite the curious glances from nearby diners who had witnessed the intensity, if not the content, of their exchange. Outside, the summer evening was warm, the sky painted in shades of orange and purple as the sun began to set. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of months of deception and weeks of careful planning finally lifting. Her phone buzzed with a text from James. "This isn't over." She smiled grimly and deleted the message without responding. For her, it was already over. 3 days later, Emma returned to the house to collect more of her belongings. She'd expected James to be at work, but his car was in the driveway. So was Mira's. Emma hesitated, considering coming back later, but steeled herself and used her key. This was still legally her home, after all. She found them in the kitchen, hunched over papers spread across the island counter. They looked up simultaneously, James with anger, Mira with something closer to shame. "I thought you'd be at work," Emma said, setting down her empty suitcase. "I took a personal day," James replied. His eyes were bloodshot, his normally immaculate appearance disheveled. "We need to talk." "I believe I made myself clear at the restaurant," Emma said, moving toward the stairs. "I'm just here for more clothes." "The terms you're demanding are unreasonable," James called after her. "Your lawyer is asking for 70% of our assets." Emma stopped, turning slowly. 70% is exactly what you deserve to keep after what you've done." "I'm being generous." "And the resignation?" James pressed. "You're asking me to throw away my entire career." "I'm asking you to leave with dignity before you're fired. Or worse, arrested." Emma crossed her arms. "Have you transferred the money back yet?" James's jaw tightened. "I need more time. You've had 3 days. The deadline was noon yesterday." "Some of it is tied up in investments," he explained, desperation edging into his voice. "I can't liquidate everything immediately." Emma studied him, recognizing the familiar signs of his lying, the slight twitch at the corner of his mouth, the way he couldn't quite meet her eyes. "You're planning to run," she stated flatly. "That's what these are, isn't it?" She gestured to the papers on the counter. "You're trying to figure out how to disappear with whatever money you can salvage." Mira looked away, confirming Emma's suspicion. "You won't get far," Emma continued. "I've already spoken to Detective Rivera. You remember him from the hospital fundraiser last year? He's very interested in financial crimes." "You wouldn't," James said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I already have." Emma pulled out her phone and showed them the call log. "We had coffee yesterday. He's expecting my evidence package this afternoon unless I call to cancel." James lunged forward, reaching for her phone. "Give me that." Emma stepped back, slipping the phone into her pocket. "Touch me and I'll add assault to the list." Mira stood, placing herself between them. "Stop it, both of you." "This is insane." "No," Emma corrected her. "Insane was thinking you could announce your pregnancy at my anniversary dinner and expect me to just accept it. Insane was believing I wouldn't discover what you've been doing behind my back." "We made a mistake," Mira admitted, tears forming in her eyes. "A terrible mistake. But does that justify destroying James's life? Our baby's future?" "Your baby will be fine," Emma said coldly. "Unless you're planning to follow James to prison. In which case, I'm sure your parents will provide adequately." James slumped against the counter, the fight draining from him. "What do you want, Emma?" "Really want?" "There must be something." Emma considered the question. What did she want? Revenge? Justice? Peace? "I want what I've always wanted," she said finally. "Honesty, integrity, the life and family I thought we were building together." She shook her head. "But that's gone now. So I'll settle for what's fair." "And you think this is fair?" James challenged. "More than fair," Emma replied. "I'm giving you a chance to start over cleanly. Resign. Agree to my settlement terms, and you keep your freedom and enough money to support your new family. Fight me, and you lose everything." Mira sank into a chair, one hand absently stroking her barely visible bump. "I never thought it would end like this." "How did you think it would end?" Emma asked, genuinely curious. "Did you imagine us all becoming one big happy family? That I'd be the godmother to your love child? We thought you'd be angry but eventually understand," Mira said quietly. "You've always been so reasonable. So forgiving," Emma laughed bitterly. There are limits to forgiveness, Mira. You and James found them. She turned back to James. Transfer the money today. All of it. Sign the papers my lawyer sent. Submit your resignation letter. Then you're free to start your new life, looking over your shoulder, wondering when your house of cards will collapse. And if I do all that, James asked, you'll destroy the evidence? Emma smiled. No, I'll keep it. Think of it as my insurance policy against any future misunderstandings. She headed upstairs, leaving them in stunned silence. In the master bedroom, she methodically packed her clothes, jewelry and personal items, ignoring the memories that threatened to overwhelm her. As she zipped the suitcase closed, Mira appeared in the doorway. Can we talk? Alone? Emma sighed. Make it quick. Mira entered hesitantly, perching on the edge of the bed they'd once shared confidences on during countless girls' nights. I know you'll never forgive me, she began. I wouldn't forgive me either, but I need you to know that I never planned this. It just happened. Affairs don't just happen, Mira, Emma replied, pulling the suitcase off the bed. They're a series of choices, thousands of moments where you could have stopped but didn't. I know, Mira whispered. I've been trying to understand it myself. Why I would betray the one person who's always been there for me, who I love like a sister. Don't, Emma warned. Don't you dare say you love me. Not now, but I do, Mira insisted. That's what makes this so twisted. I love you both differently but equally. When it started with James, it was just physical. A mistake after too many drinks when you were at that conference in Boston. And then it became something else. Something I couldn't control. Mira looked up, tears streaming down her face. I tried to end it 3 times. But then I'd see him with you, playing the devoted husband, and I'd get so angry. At me? Emma asked incredulously. For being his wife? At him, Mira clarified. For lying to you. For making me his accomplice in hurting you. But by then, I was already in too deep. Emma stared at her former friend, searching for the woman she'd trusted implicitly for 15 years. The pregnancy, she said finally. Was it an accident? Mira hesitated. Not entirely. We weren't careful. I think part of me wanted it to force a resolution. Well, you got your resolution, Emma said, lifting the suitcase. Just not the one you expected. As she reached the door, Mira called after her. He does love you, you know. In his way, Emma paused without turning around. His way isn't love, Mira, it's possession. Remember that when the newness wears off, and you're just another person he owns rather than treasures. She descended the stairs to find James on the phone, speaking quietly but intensely. He hung up when he saw her. It's done, he said flatly. The money's been transferred. I've signed your damn papers. And I've submitted my resignation. Good, Emma replied. Then our business is concluded. Except for one thing, James added, his voice hardening. You don't get to hold this over us forever. I want your word that once the divorce is final, you'll destroy that evidence. Emma studied the man she'd once pledged her life to. She saw no remorse in his eyes, only calculation and self-preservation. You know what your problem is, James? You still think you're entitled to make demands? To control the narrative, she shook her head. That's over now. You vindictive bitch, he spat. You've been planning this all along, haven't you? Gathering evidence, setting your trap. Waiting for the perfect moment to spring it. No, James. I was planning our future. You're the one who destroyed it. She moved toward the door with her suitcase. Goodbye. This isn't justice, he called after her. This is revenge! Emma paused, her hand on the doorknob. Maybe it's both. 1 year later, Emma stepped out of the hospital into the crisp autumn air, breathing deeply as she shed the intensity of her 12-hour shift. A successful surgery always left her with a particular kind of high. The knowledge that she'd made a tangible difference in someone's life. Today's patient had been a 7-year-old with a congenital heart defect. The surgery had been complex but successful, and the prognosis was excellent. These were the moments that reaffirmed her calling as a surgeon. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan, the architectural engineer she'd been dating for 2 months. Dinner still on for 7? Made reservations at that new place on Hawthorne you mentioned. Emma smiled and texted back a confirmation. Nathan was kind, straightforward, and refreshingly honest, qualities she'd come to value more than ever. She was about to pocket her phone when a news alert caught her eye. Local financial consultant charged in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Emma clicked on the article, unsurprised to see James's name in the headline. The SEC investigation she'd triggered with her evidence had expanded far beyond even what she'd discovered, uncovering a pattern of fraud spanning nearly a decade. According to the article, James had violated his agreement with Emma within weeks of signing it. Attempting to flee to South America with significant assets hidden in offshore accounts, he'd been arrested at the airport, alongside Mira, whose pregnancy was clearly visible in the grainy surveillance photo accompanying the article. Emma felt a complex wave of emotions: vindication but no joy, closure without satisfaction. She scrolled through the article, noting that James faced up to 20 years if convicted on all counts. At the bottom was a brief update on Mira. Chen, who gave birth to Porter's child 3 months ago, has been granted immunity in exchange for her testimony. Sources close to the case indicate she has provided substantial evidence against her former partner. Emma closed the article and put away her phone. Some part of her had known it would end this way. James had never been able to resist the allure of easy money, and Mira had always prioritized self-preservation. As she walked to her car, Emma reflected on the tumultuous year behind her. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, leaving her financially secure and emotionally drained. She'd sold their house, unable to remain in a space so filled with deception, and purchased a smaller home closer to the hospital. The hardest part had been rebuilding trust, not just in others, but in herself. For months she'd questioned her judgment, wondering how she could have missed the signs of betrayal from the 2 people closest to her. Therapy had helped, as had the unwavering support of her sister and colleagues. Slowly, she'd reclaimed her sense of self, remembering that she was more than the sum of what had been done to her. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from Mira, the first contact since that final confrontation in the kitchen a year ago. Emma hesitated before opening it, wondering what Mira could possibly have to say now. Curiosity won out. Emma, I know you have no reason to read this, much less respond. But with James's trial approaching, I've been forced to confront the full reality of what we did, and the person I became. The evidence you gathered was just the beginning. When federal investigators started digging, they found so much more. James had been defrauding clients for years before we even met. He's not the man either of us thought he was. I've made a plea deal to testify against him. Not for immunity, though I'll take it for my daughter's sake, but because it's the right thing to do. Finally, her name is Lily. She's 3 months old, and the one pure thing to come from all this wreckage. Someday, when she's old enough to understand, I'll tell her about the strong, principled woman who was once my best friend. About integrity and consequences, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that losing your friendship has been the heaviest price of all my poor choices. Be well. Emma. Be happier than we would have made you. Mira. Emma read the email twice, searching for manipulation or hidden agenda, but finding only what seemed like genuine remorse. She thought about responding, but decided against it. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way, not out of bitterness, but self-preservation. She closed the email and continued to her car. Tonight she would have dinner with Nathan. They would talk about his latest project and her successful surgery. They would build another small layer of trust atop the foundation they'd started. Tomorrow, she would return to the hospital and save another child. She would continue the work of healing, others and herself. As Emma drove away from the hospital, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. She thought about how endings often masquerade as failures when they're actually necessary transitions. Her marriage had ended. Her oldest friendship had shattered, but Emma Porter had emerged intact, stronger, wiser, and finally free. The light turned green, and Emma accelerated forward, leaving the shadows of the past where they belonged, behind her, growing smaller in the rearview mirror with every mile of new road ahead.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.